So, guys, I want to do a response video to OTRSCentral. So, we did talk about Rampage, and I really like what Jeff said. And also, he said that if you become a jack of all trades, you become a master of none. And I really like that because it talks about how Tony Khan is spreading himself way too thin and all that. And I also will say that because Jeff likes basketball, there's a great quote from Michael Jordan, which Jeff told me in one of his videos, which is, the reason why I succeed is not because I win, it's because I choose to learn over and over from when I fail. And that's very, very true. And I agree with what he also said too about Rampage, that it's a loss for everybody. If you have some Schadenfreude, or if you're kind of happy that it's gone, really, it's detrimental, really. Even though I'm kind of happy that it's gone, but yeah, I really think that he's also right to say that this is really a lesson for Tony to really learn about where he wants to take AEW in the future. And this is also a lesson for him to really just, think about restructuring the company. And I really think in 2025, this is kind of maybe the real year of AEW. Are they going to become more like a TNA wrestling where they were once good and then they went down on television to a point where, now TNA has been irrelevant since like 2014. They're starting to do a little bit better, but they're not on major television. They don't have major stars. They have nothing that they don't have like Sting or AJ or Samoa Joe. They don't have all those people anymore. So are they going to go down? So is AEW going to go down that trajectory? Or are they going to be like WWE in the mid 90s where they went from a very bad point to starting to get a little upper? And that comes from a lot of restructuring. I do agree with Jeff that, one big thing is that they need to start laying off people. They have way too big of a roster. They're spending way too much money. And I also think it's going to motivate a lot of people to actually perform better. Like, for example, they need to get rid of Okada. That's not been helping them out. If there's people who don't want to be there, get rid of Ricky Starks or Ray Phoenix and Miro and Adam Copeland, a few other people that that just don't want to be there. And the reason I say Adam Copeland is because he was out on injury, but he chose not to come back because he is working on he was helping out the hurricane relief efforts, So if he has time to do that, then he has time to be there. Or even with FTR, if they have time to help out with hurricane relief, they have time to go to work, really. So he needs to kind of get rid of people who don't want to be there or people that are not drawing money. Like I've said many, many times, what is Serpentico doing? What is the Premier Athletes doing? What are what's Heavy Machinery doing? The guys who talk about Titty City and barbecue sauce. What is Brandon Cutler doing? What are the Premier Athletes doing? What's Kip Sabian doing? What's Orange Cassidy doing? What's Marco Stung? What's Emi Sakura? You need to start kind of just nixing all those people. You also have to start nixing your creative department because if they're having some bad feuds and whatever, like I said, you need to spend money on actual people. I would say even he says he has 30 people in the creative department. So you need to divide those people into 10, into 3, like 10 people for ROH, 10 people for Collision, 10 people for Dynamite. And then maybe you take 5 from each group and then you have them do a pay-per-view. And you do it like that, really. There needs to be a lot of restructuring. And then the other issue that I'll say about Rampage is the reason why it was bad was that that there was no purpose to it. It was kind of like extra filler matches. And that was kind of why it was bad, because, why would I want to watch, why would I want to watch Ricochet versus Commander or Adam Copeland versus Minoru Suzuki, or why would I want to watch, like CM Punk versus, Private Party? Why would I want to see Private Party, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, and Brother Zay, versus, a few other people, so they never really had a purpose with that show. It was good for them to kind of put some matches at the Continental Classic, kind of spread some things, but it really, really had no purpose. And I also like that it kind of punishes the people who go to AEW Live, because now they know that there's no like show after that. So it's a little bit like, okay, you know what? Since it's not getting the fan support, why should we? It's a reminder to turn to the show. If you want more like stuff at the shows, and you want to watch Rampage or stay an extra hour and have it feel really big and stuff like that, you have to be watching these shows. So I'm happy that I think it punishes the fans a little bit, and it also talks about restructuring, but it also kind of talks about the other issue that I've said with AEW, that I think if I was to run AEW, I would say 2-hour Dynamite, 2-hour Collision, and 2-hour Ring of Honor, and then you divide the roster on all 3 shows. And I would also say that after Dynamite you can have an hour of Ring of Honor, and then maybe during Collision you can have like an hour, like 7 to 8 Ring of Honor, and then 10 to 11 no more Ring of Honor action. And this is for the live television tapings. And I would also kind of say that really the emphasis needs to be on storytelling, because that's the big thing that's hurt Rampage, and that's kind of the evidence that you have some continuation, but you don't have exclusive wrestlers, and you also don't have exclusive storylines, So what would happen if Ricky Starks was on Rampage? What would happen if you had, Top Flight and other people? What would happen if you had all that shit? So it's just not good, really. It represents a lot of failures. It represents failures of not having a product that's appealing. You have failures of a bad time slot. You have failures of a show that gets moved around a lot. You also have failure of not kind of splitting up the roster, and then also you have a potential failure of Tony not learning from this. So it represents a lot of just re-examination. And as I said that, and I think that we all hit the nail on the mark. This is a failure that Tony needs to learn from. And if he doesn't learn from that, then, I really think that 2025, 2026, AEW is going to be a lot like TNA Wrestling, where they're going to lose so much that after their next deal, they're not going to get renewed. And they're going to become like TNA Wrestling, where you're going to see like Will Ospreay versus Okada in high school gyms and all that stuff. And eventually it gets to a point where Shad Khan will be like, okay, you know what, son, I'm still alive. Maybe I have another 10 years in me, but I'm getting rid of this because, we can't be funding a project that's not working really, So, or Shad will be like, okay, I got to fire Tony. I got to bring in other people who know what they're doing, because, AEW, it has to be profitable. It has to be successful. It can't be a vanity project. And even if there's somebody like Shad Khan who's worth billions, and even if he's profitable and making hundreds of millions or making billions of dollars, eventually he's smart enough to not keep a vanity project going that's not working. And that's important. And it doesn't, and who gives a fuck about giving people jobs really? Because it's not a charity. It should not be a charity. It has to be, everybody has to really make AEW profitable. And that is the wrestlers, that is the writers, that is the management, that is Tony Khan's leadership. It cannot be it can't be a charity project. It has to be profitable, and there has to be results really. So that's all really, really, really important. And as I said, Tony has to learn from this failure. And if he doesn't, it's going to lead to more like problem and pain and heartache. And I don't think, he wants to experience that, or anybody wants to experience that. So I agree with OTRSCentral. I think that it should lead to a re-examining, a reconstructioning, and a better presentation of the product. It's also very unfortunate, but ultimately Tony has to learn from this failure.